mark.
On your mark.
Get set.
Get set.
Now ready.
Ready, go!
Provocative, engaging, and usually quite a lady.
Okay, they're asking for it.
Deborah, go!
Can you believe it? There are just, a little less than a couple of weeks remaining before the presidential elections. And I'm going to be honest with you. Actually, I'll be glad when this mess is over. Mess in the sense that all of this dirty politics. They talk about an October surprise. We have just been rained on with October surprises. I mean, the Democrats, the left, whatever you want to call them, those who do not like Donald Trump, and probably more to the point, those who want to assume full power and control of this nation, and Trump is standing in their way, they have just gone crazy. I went to vote, and in the car, listening to the radio, it was like breaking news, breaking story after story. If it wasn't that Trump allegedly grabs a former model by her butt at Epstein's house, then it was how John Kelly, former chief of staff for Donald Trump, how he says that Donald Trump is going to be a dictator. If it wasn't that, it was Mark Milley, former joint chiefs of staff, says that he's a dangerous threat. On and on and on. Mark Esper, that Trump is, what was Esper? He was the defense secretary. That Trump, he probably is going to use the military for his political purposes against Americans. And I'm thinking, this is the crazy season. This is the crazy season. There was even something from John Bolton. Bolton, years ago, he said that Donald Trump didn't have a coherent national security strategy beyond his own personal gain. They're digging all of that stuff up, throwing it all around. Kamala doing her CNN town hall meeting. All she wanted to talk about was Donald Trump. So we'll get into that just a little bit later in the podcast. But I really did just want to hit on the comments that have been attributed and actually directly made by these former Trump staffers. It's beyond disgusting. It raises some real questions for me. I'm looking at John Kelly, and I want to be real clear here. These men, these gentlemen, okay, I don't know if they're really gentlemen after what we've been listening to and hearing them say, but these men have served their country for the most part well, I think, throughout their careers. And it's a shame you wait till you retire or at the end of your career and then you crash and burn the way that they have all done. But John Kelly, he's from the Marines and the Marine Corps. He's a 4-star general. He's retired now. And he's the one who is out there saying that Trump prefers the dictator approach to government. And he also said President Trump disparaged our veterans. And I thought about that. Okay, you're the former chief of staff that Donald Trump fired. Got to put that in there now. Trump told him, bye-bye, your services are no longer needed. Then I'm looking at Mark Milley. Army general, former head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And this is the guy who says that Donald Trump is a fascist to the core. He said that in Bob Woodward's book. Bob Woodward, the guy who has never seen a Republican president that he didn't want to take down. That Bob Woodward. Mark Milley also said that he was worried that President Trump, that he posed a serious threat to democracy. He was very worried about that. And when I think about it, I actually do remember this one when he said that President Trump was a fascist to the core. He's a fascist to the core, and he is the most dangerous person to this country. Okay. Now, we got to remember what these men have said now. Then we had Mark Esper, defense secretary. He's only served for 16 months. And then Trump said, you're out of here. You're fired. Well, now he's recently started making the rounds, and he's been saying that Trump might use the military for political purposes in his second term. Okay. And Bolton is Bolton. And then there are some other lower level staffers. I'm just wondering, and this is my gut feeling, and usually go with my gut. My gut is telling me that what we're really looking at here are a couple of things. One, we're looking at pure, unadulterated revenge. John Kelly. He fired John Kelly. But I want you to just go and look at the backgrounds of these men. These are very, very accomplished individuals throughout their military careers. So what do we have here? We have Donald Trump, a guy with no military experience. I think he was booted out of military school or something like that, but with no military experience. And he's going to fire John Kelly because he says his plans, his ideas, they just weren't working. They weren't working anymore. So John Kelly now wants us to know that he prefers the dictator approach to government. I think he actually is saying, this is my gut feeling, Trump has to be a dictator because Kelly was the one with all of this military experience, highly decorated. How is this guy who went around building buildings and marketing all kinds of things, neckties and game shows and hosting all kinds of things, boxing matches, who is this guy to tell me that my advice is no longer needed when it comes to the military or anything else? Who is he? I'm thinking the same thing about Mark Milley, who actually hasn't served us very well under the Biden administration either. Hello, Afghanistan. But I just keep imagining that these individuals went to Donald Trump, sat down, and Trump wanted to know their ideas, their thoughts, their opinions on a few things. Well, what do you think about North Korea? And they probably said something to the effect, this guy is a lunatic. He's the most dangerous man. We can't have anything to do with him. And the first time he blinks his eye, we'll blow him out the water. And I just imagine Trump saying, wait, hold on, wait a minute. Let me have the file on this guy. Read about him, thought about it, says, well, we don't have to do all of that. Let me talk to this guy. Whoa, wait, no, you can't talk to him. This is what I'm imagining in my mind. Wait a minute, I'm the president. I understand you're a 4-star general, but I'm the president. And I want to talk to this guy. And what could he do, Mark Milley, but slink away? Yes, sir. We'll set the call up. I'm thinking about Mark Esper, Defense Secretary. After 16 months, Trump said, goodbye. You're fired. It just keeps playing in my mind the same situations. I'm thinking Esper, who comes with, again, great credentials in service to our country in the military. And I'm thinking he's sitting down with Donald Trump and planning some strategies and telling Trump, this Xi over there in China, this guy is really bad. Whatever you do, don't try to work with him. Don't try to fancy deal making with him because he'll beat you. He's the head of China. And I'm imagining Trump says, yeah, give me the file on this guy. And he looks it over and he says, you know what? Set up a lunch. I want to have lunch with this guy. I'm going to tell him how I really feel, but I want to talk to him. Let me see what I can do about this. No. Bad idea with Putin. Bad idea. Don't try to work with this guy. Don't do it. And each time Donald Trump says, and my gut tells me I need to talk to these guys. And they walked out of the rooms thinking, who the hell is this guy? Doesn't he know who I am? What I've done? What I can do? And Trump, he sits down, talks with Xi, lets Xi know what the deal is. You're going to buy from America. You're going to do it. This trade situation is out of control. It's a horrible balance here. You're going to buy more. And Xi brought more. That's just what he did. He sat down with Putin and he said, no, you're not going into any country. Because remember when Obama first came into office, what's the first thing that Putin did? They bombed the Republic of Georgia. First thing out the gate. And before that, he even said to Obama through some emissary, I want you to take down that missile defense shield over Poland. Yes, sir. Okay, you got it. Yeah. But not Donald Trump. And make no mistake about it, John Kelly, Mark Milley, Mark Esper, they all come out of the same pool. These men have, again, they've served our country well, but make no mistake about it. They've also worked in politics for an awfully long time. And you don't ascend to the top of the military mountain unless you are a political mover and shaker. So broken ego is a big part of this. Ego fractured is a big part of this. So these men with their wounded egos, and there's another component to this, make no mistake about it. There was a ready, willing, and able group of Democrat elitists, political power brokers, the same group who most likely got Biden out of office, who said, well, come to us, fellas. How can we help you here? We have a willing and able media that will make certain that your message gets out. And what do you want to talk about here? So all we've been hearing is how Trump is going to be a dictator. He's like Hitler. He admired Hitler. He's a fascist. We heard Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic with his article. Nothing that he can source, only his anonymous sources. Goldberg claimed in his article that once President Trump learned that the body of Vanessa Guillen had been found, she was the young woman from the Army, she was killed and her dismembered body was found. Goldberg claimed that once Trump learned about it, he wanted to know how much would her funeral cost. And then he says that once Trump learned how much it would cost, he angrily said that there's no effing way it costs $60,000 to bury a Mexican. And when I first heard that, I knew right away, that's not President Trump. President Trump would never say that. He wouldn't do that. He has shown incredible respect and loyalty to our military people. He has. And then ironically, the family of Miss Guillen, they have come out and said, no, he treated us with nothing but respect. He was gracious. He was thoughtful. He was kind. He was considerate. No. And then Jeffrey Goldberg went on TV saying, well, they weren't in the room. My source was in the room. They don't know. He was talking about them behind their backs. They said, we don't believe it. And then Vanessa Guillen's sister, she tweeted and she said, no, I am upset. My family is very upset. We feel so disrespected because you disrespected our loved one. And then she concluded, and as a matter of fact, I'm going out to vote today and I'm voting for Donald Trump. So the point here is we've got some angry people who are out to get revenge against Donald Trump because who was Donald Trump to tell us about military operations, military strategy, foreign policy, defense issues? Who was he? Dang gone huckster? Because that was in their mind, I believe. And they were angry about it. Their egos were just shattered. So this is the best way that they could do it. And then, of course, they became useful tools for the big dogs, the ones that really hate him, the ones who have been actively out to get him from day one, even when these men were in the administration. And they've joined forces with those people. I want you to remember something. When President Trump was in office, every step he made with a foreign leader, what did we hear? We heard that he was going to trigger World War III. Go back into the time machine, the Wayback Machine. They kept telling us he would start World War III. When he went to North Korea, by the way, he was the first sitting U.S. president to do so. Oh, they were up in arms. He was going to start a world war, or he was being played. None of that was true. When he talked with Putin, it was always about, at least according to his detractors, he was on the take with Putin. He was making deals. His businesses were benefiting. None of that was true. When he met with Xi, It was a problem. He was going to be manipulated. Didn't happen. The bottom line is this. Under Donald Trump, we didn't walk into any wars. We did not engage. And we do know Donald Trump is probably the most anti-war president I've seen in my lifetime, and you probably have seen in your lifetime. Now, contrast that with today. We are in conflicts all around the world. And here we are in 2024 with people talking about this guy is a warmonger. He wants to be a fascist. Get real. This is something for you to think about. The accusers of President Trump, the military men, John Kelly, Mark Milley, Mark Esper, John Bolton. These are warriors. These are men who have given their time, their years in defense of our nation. You're going to tell me that not one reporter that I have heard, not one, has asked this one simple question. John Kelly, if you believe that Donald Trump is a Hitler, a fascist, why didn't you say something before? Why didn't you do anything before? You are an influential man. Why didn't you say anything? Mark Milley, if you believe that Donald Trump is a fascist to the core, if you really believe that he is the most dangerous person that this country has to contend with, if this is something you actually believe, it was incumbent upon you, sir, to take action, to present this to Congress, to our Senate, to the press. You should have been doing this. Donald Trump has been out of office for years, 4 years. And while he was in office, why didn't you warn the public? Why didn't you say anything? Hey, Mark Esper, here you are, the defense secretary, and you've been going around saying that Donald Trump, you truly believe, will use the military for political purposes in his second term. He's going to come after Americans. If you really believe this, why haven't you said anything? You guys have been out of power for, not you, Millie, but you guys have been out the game for a while. You really didn't have much to lose. That would be a cowardly way to approach it, but why didn't you say anything? And the press has not asked that question. I haven't heard it, not once. And this is the second most important question that the media should be asking. Why haven't any of you endorsed Kamala Harris for president? Why haven't you endorsed Kamala Harris for president? Now, there is a letter with 700 national security leaders who are endorsing Kamala Harris. But again, most notably absent, and I went through the entire list of 700. I did not see the names of Kelly, Milley, or Esper. If you truly believe that a second term of Donald Trump will be so detrimental to the well-being of this country, don't you think it's kind of your responsibility, your obligation to help the other person win? More than just going out here with unsubstantiated claims. If you really think he's a Hitler or a fascist, why run the risk of him winning again? Why not do all you can, including getting up and making a public endorsement? You haven't done that. You haven't endorsed her. As far as I know, I don't see a presser, as they say, with Milley or any of the others. The future of our nation depends on it. We must elect Kamala Harris, and I cast my vote. I stand with her. I got her back. No, haven't heard any of that.
Forget it, lady. It ain't gonna happen.
I know that's right.
All right, let's take a quick look at Cam on the on the town hall circuit. There are people who definitely plan to vote for her without question, but they still long for details and information and clarity. And they were hoping against hope that she'd deliver that. We've got about 2 weeks now before the election. And they don't want to just go in and just pull the lever. I know we actually fill in squares and put it in a machine, but they don't just want to go in there and vote for her because then they're going to feel stupid. Well, gosh, I really didn't know anything she stood for, but she wasn't Donald Trump. I don't think most people really want to do that. They do, in fact, want information. They want to know where she stands. There were some questions, and she had answers. Let's start with one of the critical questions on the minds of most Americans. What about the border?
2022, 2023, there were record border crossings. Your administration took hundreds of executive actions. It didn't stem the flow. Numbers kept going up. Finally, in 2024, just in June, 3 weeks before the first presidential debate with Joe Biden, you institute executive actions that had a dramatic impact, really shut down people crossing over. Why didn't your administration do that in 2022, 2023?
First of all, you're exactly right, Anderson. And as of today, we have cut the flow of immigration by over half. In fact, the numbers I saw most recently, illegal immigration
But if
is
it was
low.
that easy with that executive action, why not do it in 2022, 2023?
Because we were working with Congress and hoping that actually we could have a long-term fix to the problem instead of a short-term fix.
You couldn't have done one and both at the same time?
Well, here's the thing. We have to understand that ultimately this problem is going to be fixed through congressional action.
Under Donald Trump, you criticized the wall more than 50 times. You called it stupid, useless, and a medieval vanity project. Is a border wall stupid?
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump and that border wall. So remember, Donald Trump said Mexico would pay for it? Come on, they didn't. How much of that wall did he build? I think the last number I saw is about 2%.
To fix the problem, you're doing this compromise bill. It does call for $650 million that was earmarked under Trump to actually still go to build the wall.
I'm not afraid of good ideas where they occur, Anderson.
So you don't think it's stupid anymore?
I think what he did and how he did it did not make much sense because he actually didn't do much of anything. I just talked about that wall, right? We just talked about it. He didn't actually do much of anything.
But you do want to build some wall.
I want to strengthen our border.
Oh, how I wish things weren't so critical. Then we really could have a good laugh. But there was more. A young woman from the audience, she had a question.
Considering you have been in the position of vice president for the past 4 years under the Biden administration, how can we expect you to deviate from the direction of that administration compared to your own? How can we differentiate your policy and your beliefs from that of Biden's?
That's a great question, and thank you. Well, first of all, my administration will not be a continuation of the Biden administration. I bring to this role my own ideas and my own experience. I represent a new generation of leadership on a number of issues and believe that we have to actually take new approaches. For example, what we talked about in terms of housing. My experience that leads to that priority includes what I did to take on the big banks around the foreclosure crisis when I brought billions of dollars to homeowners that were the subject of predatory lending. I know what homeownership means to the American people, not to mention what it meant to my mother, who worked very hard and saved up so that by the time I was a teenager, she was able to buy our first home. I bring to it my experience actually taking care of my mother when she was sick, and it was, as it turned out, dying from cancer. And so I know what it means and have the experience of taking care of an elderly relative, and I have raised children. And so I bring to my priorities and will, as president, a new approach and a new idea, frankly, about what we need to do to deal with the sandwich generation.
There were some questions. I got no answers.
Now, as quiet as it's kept, her whole reason for doing that town hall, because she really does not like to talk to the public directly, unless it's very well scripted. But her whole reason for attending that town hall, it was not to take questions. It was not to talk about the border. It was not to talk about the differences between the Biden administration and how her administration would be. Her single purpose for being there was to make a statement. And guess what? She made it.
You've quoted General Milley calling Donald Trump a fascist. You yourself have not used that word to describe him. Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I also believe that the people who know him best on this subject should be trusted. Again, look at their careers. These are not people, with the exception, I think, of only Mike Pence. These were not politicians. These are career people who have served in the highest roles in national security, who have served as generals in our military, who are highly respected. Talking about the person who would be commander-in-chief, not to mention what we know and what they've told us about how he talks about the military, servicemen and women, referring to them as suckers and losers, how he demeans people who have taken an oath to sacrifice their life for our country. And I do believe, Anderson, that part of this is why, even just this week, I traveled this state and others with Liz Cheney, former Congress member who was a very high-ranking Republican. She has endorsed me. Her father, the former Vice President of the United States, Dick Cheney, is voting for me. Over 400 previous members of the administration, from Ronald Reagan to both Presidents Bush to Donald Trump even, have endorsed my candidacy. And the reason why, among them, is a legitimate fear based on Donald Trump's words and actions that he will not obey an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. He himself has said he would terminate the Constitution of the United States and wants to earn your vote to stand again behind the seal of the President of the United States? No one standing behind the seal of the President of the United States of America should be in that position saying they want to terminate the Constitution of the United States.
Instead of using so many words and wasting so much time with her lies, there was no such thing as Trump calling our service people losers. And just a few years ago, Dick Cheney was Hitler. Yeah. So instead of wasting so much time with that word salad, because that's all that was as well, it would have made a lot more sense if she had just said this. You have to admit, that was far more believable.
When she doesn't want to answer a question, her habit is to kind of go to word salad city.
Well, you're absolutely right, David Axelrod.